All right, and 999, just to confirm, 39th Place in Kedzie, they were saying that they were being surrounded by that large crowd, and they were requesting the police were not sending.
Some of the radio chatter the Department of Homeland Security shared, saying, play the tape, stop protecting criminals. They were requesting the police were not sending. Not only did Chicago's leaders refuse to send support to federal law enforcement officers in danger, now they're lying about it. Disgusting. That is a official posting from the Department of Homeland Security on X yesterday with some of that audio. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop with you each and every weekday morning. We'll get to some of the reaction from the police superintendent up there, Larry Snelling, but you had Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson yesterday hold a news conference and took a whole bunch of questions, and all of this about public safety, right? And we'll touch on some of that, and also he was asked by independent Chicago reporter William Kelly about the controversial comments he made of the right wing, Johnson said, wants to rehash the Civil War. So we'll hear about that. But first, something we touched on briefly Monday, the village of Broadview. That's where a lot of the clashes between federal law enforcement and protesters have been. They have an executive order laying out protest times from 9 in the morning to 6 p.m. in the evening, and that's daily time. You had Illinois State Police last week, as we covered on Friday last week, set up perimeters for First Amendment exercise, including an area for media, and their main point was they wanted to make sure that the thoroughfare to that facility in Broadview was not impeded so that people could freely get in and out, not just for Border Patrol and ICE agents with their detainees, but also advocates for the detainees, attorneys, family bringing medication, a whole host of things. So, they're trying to just make that place in that area more safe in Broadview. So the Broadview mayor actually said in their statements they support the protesters' position, but they said last weekend aggressive protesters made things worse. So she put an executive order out saying that you have to have these essentially, protest zones. At the same time, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson put out a executive order as well, saying it's an ICE-free zone in Chicago. So we'll hear a little bit of all of this, but Governor J.B. Pritzker on Monday, after coming out and blasting the Trump administration for bringing in the National Guard to Chicago to help with public safety while there's increased immigration enforcement and increased protests, he was asked about, Broadview's saying that the protesters are unruly. What are your thoughts about that, Governor?
Obviously, this was issued by a mayor who's got the ability to issue executive orders. And she is deeply concerned about the people who live in Broadview and how they've been ill affected by the challenges in her community as a result of the way ICE is behaving. So I know that it was aimed at that. I can't speak to whether it would affect the lawsuit or I know this is about, though, keeping the people of Broadview from being targeted or being unsafe in their communities. These are folks who are just trying to get to the grocery store, take their kids to school. They live in a community that never had this kind of unrest until Donald Trump decided to do this.
So again, the governor laying out that his understanding was it's ICE that is provoking the protesters into violence, and that's why the mayor had to do this. But again, you look at the mayor's statement from Broadview, it clearly says there were aggressive protesters that just made the situation worse. And that was the mayor saying in Broadview she actually supports the protesters' position here. So that's in Broadview. Chicago, different story. You have Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson posting this clip from his news conference on Monday where he announced that executive order.
People die. When protesters confronted federal immigration agents in Brighton Park on Saturday, they were met with pepper balls and more repression. CPD responded to attempt to de-escalate the situation, and ICE tear-gassed our police officers. Tear-gassing the women and men who serve as Chicago Police Department officers is not how we make our city safer. These actions tell us simple truth. If we allow this administration to take away due process for anyone, we will allow them to take away due process for everyone. Today, we are signing an executive order aimed at reining in this out-of-control administration. The order establishes ICE-free zones. That means that city property and unwilling private businesses will no longer serve as staging grounds for these raids. Our school parking lots are not for ICE to load their weapons. They are for Chicagoans who drop their kids off to learn. Our libraries are not for ICE to prepare for a raid. They're for Chicagoans to read and relax. Our parks are not for ICE to set up checkpoints. They are for Chicagoans to play and enjoy. Private establishments can partner with us to make it clear that private property is private property, and ICE cannot enter establishments without a valid warrant.
So it goes on from there, and you even see social media pictures of signs popping up in Chicago, paid for by, I'm assuming, tax dollars, because they're coming from the city of Chicago, that spells out this is an ICE-free zone and gives the legalese to all of that. So the Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson yesterday held a news conference, and he talked about what he believes is the role of the National Guard in Chicago, the order of President Donald Trump. Here is the mayor.
Mayor Johnson, over the last week, I've literally interacted with over 300,000 plus real Chicagoans who say that it is hate speech for you to evoke the Civil War.
We'll get to that in a moment. I grabbed that wrong clip here. Here we go. Powers and legalities of the National Guard. We'll hear William Kelly here in a moment.
So they won't have policing powers. We know that.
And then could you kind of just go over again what you know about where the National Guard is currently located, and, you know, as far as you know, what type of powers does the National Guard have in Chicago, and who are they accountable to in this moment?
Yeah, well, they're accountable to the federal government, right? Once, the president invokes, his, quite frankly, his constitutional authority in that he can federalize. The problem is, of course, he has not met the basic standards in order to be able to do that, and that's what the judge in Oregon indicated and made very clear. So they won't have policing powers. We know that. They can't arrest. So whatever their order is, I believe this is what the judge is asking for. What will be the specific? Make the case first, and then what would be the specific assignments? The president has not proven either of those standards, and this is why I'm going to remain hopeful that the judge carries out what the judge did in Oregon, which is this is unconstitutional, it's illegal, and it's dangerous.
And again, the case in Oregon's different circuits. What happens in the Northern District of Illinois in the 7th Circuit, we'll see. And all this is going to play out in, how rapid, right? I mean, how rapid is this going to play out? I know some of you here found this channel because of coverage of the gun ban in Illinois, and you know that it just takes so long to get through. I mean, the gun ban passed in 2023, and here we are, still in 2025 now, at the tail end. We don't have finality on that. But this case about the use of the National Guard and, possible temporary restraining order, we're expecting to get some outcome by Thursday. All right, so William Kelly, independent Chicago reporter, at the news conference yesterday with Brandon Johnson, asking about the controversial comments Johnson made about how he claims the right wing wants to rehash the Civil War.
Mayor Johnson, over the last week, I've literally interacted with over 300,000 plus real Chicagoans who say that it is hate speech for you to evoke the Civil War, to evoke bringing back the Confederacy, to say that law enforcement is a sickness when you yourself have over 150 sworn police officers on your detail. What do you say to these people?
I think it's important to be able to make sure that to the people that you're talking to, though you're talking to less and less people every week, is that they know the truth. Here's what I've said. That the addiction on jails and incarcerations and the addiction of militarism, it is an evil. He made that very clear. And so I believe it's incumbent upon us to make sure that the real Chicagoans or the real people of America, instead of sending billions of dollars overseas, we should be spending it on the people right here in the city of Chicago.
Kelly
That's what we
went
should
on
be doing.
to ask a follow-up question of Johnson.
Well, the real Chicagoans that I talk to, that I communicate with, mostly black and brown, actually, tell me that you don't seem to know the difference between illegal aliens and real Chicago citizens. They feel that you are siding with the illegal aliens over them in their communities. And sadly,
William, let's get to the question.
let's get to the question. The real question is simply this. I don't know how to make it any more direct. An illegal alien from Nicaragua grabbed a woman on the north side
Is
last
a question?
week, bashed her head into the sidewalk, knocked her unconscious, and raped her. If that had been your wife, Stacy.
Okay, all right, we're not going to answer it. Thank you. Thanks, William.
All right.
Would you want ICE to? Would you want ICE to deport her?
All right.
To
Let's
deport that
let's move
illegal
on.
alien? Yes or no?
Let's move on.
Definitely some controversial line of questioning there, and that's what you get at an open-ended news conference. But back to this issue of the phone call that the federal agents tried getting some action from Chicago police to help them out because of the surrounding they were under and the assault that actually happened in a couple of different places in Chicago. Let's go back to that tape that DHS shared here on their social media.
39th Police in Kedzie, they were saying that they were being surrounded by that large crowd, and they were requesting the police were not sending. I'm waving off all the cars heading to 39th Police in Kedzie.
Again, those are the orders we're being given.
Okay, 10-4. And again, for all the units that we called to go over that way, 39th Police in Kedzie, if you could just hold off 911, 913, 923, 924, 933, 934. Just disregard that. 39th Police in Kedzie. All right, and 999, just to confirm,
So you've got
39th Police in Kedzie,
the 40-second clip there that's made the rounds all over the place. Earlier this week, Larry Snelling, the police superintendent, talked a little bit about this, saying that there's still more information they need to get, but here we are Wednesday when this allegedly happened on Saturday.
So the feds called for help at 12:28 p.m. There's a computer message timestamped at 12:28 p.m. that says no units will respond. Dispatchers later captured on audio saying that she's waving off units from 39th and Kedzie. I am wondering what would you call that, if not a stand down, and if there were already enough units on scene, how many were there circa 12:28, 12:30 p.m.?
That's something else that we have to look at, and we have to see because sometimes what you hear on the radio does not necessarily reflect what's happening on the ground once someone's there, but we did have officers over there. We have a timeline and a breakdown of who responded, and if you listen to the radio transmission, there were multiple officers who said they were going to that location, and they showed up because that's what CPD does when they hear that someone's in danger.
How that's going to end up coming to any kind of conclusion? Will there actually be some closure there? Or was it an indication that Chicago Police Department brass don't want to help federal law enforcement? Because you've got the city of Chicago with Mayor Brandon Johnson saying that ICE needs to get out. Governor J.B. Pritzker saying ICE needs to get out. You've got these higher level law enforcement officers in a city like Chicago that's like Superintendent Larry Snelling. You know, he's works for Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago. So we'll be watching all of this, of course, public safety and the continued conflict between the Trump administration and Illinois Democrats continues. Get the updates at thecentersquare.com. Get the headlines in your inbox at thecentersquare.com and wake up with us here for Illinois in Focus Daily with The Center Square.